and welcome into Dynamic Friday number 4. Give me a moment to make sure things are live across our social media aspects of today, as this is one of the most fun things we get to do on a regular basis. Perfect. Okay, looks like we are. All right. So today, as you are well aware, we are going to go over a lot of stuff that's going to help you end the week on a positive note, a productive note, and most importantly, a profitable note. We're also going to make sure that if you have a question, you have a comment, you have something that you would like us to handle live, you can join us in the StreamYard, post a comment, ask a question, and engage with us in real time. I'm going to make sure that the live stream is live and not just live for myself, as it oftentimes is. There we go. I fixed it. Save. Now we can get back on track. As you know, we are getting used to doing our Friday, Dynamic Fridays live across Facebook, across YouTube, and of course, on Free Conference Call HD. But wait a second. Why would you join us on StreamYard? Why would you do anything like that at all? Well, here's a couple reasons. To interact, like I said a moment ago, to ask a question. I'm assuming you're dressed, you're out of bed, and you are presentable. Well, even if you're not, you can still get on the StreamYard and ask a question and engage with us in real time. We're working to move a few of the old school methodologies that we have into the modern era of insurance sales and final expense. And this is one of them. The morning call concept has always worked. It's worked from the moment I entered this industry in 2015. It'll work for years and years to come. But hey, it's also fun to take it into the modern era and bring it face to face. We're working to bring things like CRMs into the modern era and take us out of a file cabinet and a Google Sheet and take you into a situation where you can engage and be alerted about what's going on with your book of business. And hey, sell people maybe you forgot even sold before. So as we get settled in this morning, text the StreamYard link out to a friend. Join the StreamYard yourself. When we hang up at 9:30 on Free Conference Call HD, if you're not planning to be in the field, switch over and join us here. We're not going to take up too much of your time. We're going to be wrapped up right around 10 or 10:15 a.m. Eastern. So I assure you it's worth every bit of your attendance today. Today, after we open, Adam's going to discuss ways, or after I open, Adam's going to break down his week with you. And I don't know much about what happened, but I know he wrote a good amount of business. I know he had a good amount of leads, and I know it didn't come easy. That's interesting, right? Like you can have a lot of leads, you can have fresh leads, you can have business written, but sometimes it doesn't come easy. So when I step off screen and he takes over, I'm excited to hear what he did, how he did it, and how maybe you can take those experiences, those methodologies, and apply them into the field today. Also, before we get to his segment today, where he's going to cover in a long form topic, persistency, I'm going to share with you some persistency tips that have always worked for me. Hopefully, these tips don't take away from what he has to share today. But if it does, hey, can't hurt to hear the same thing twice, right? So appreciate you being here today, either on the conference call, on StreamYard, on Facebook. And if you happen to be catching us on social media, I need a favor of you. Drop a comment. If something that we say today helps you make money, is interesting, is educational, is something you've never heard before, or you're with our agency, I really would appreciate dropping us a comment so the algorithm works in our favor. All right, so I'm going to go over some persistency tips of my own and then turn the call over to Adam for his thoughts. Number 1, policy delivery. The best, whenever I hear an agent say to me, I'm having trouble with persistency, like I have too much business falling off the books. You know the first thing I'm going to tell them? Well, go back to delivering your policies. Or if you're selling over the phone, make sure you're texting them and mailing them something tangible very soon after you've made that sale. Policy delivery was one of the biggest reasons why I had a 93% persistency in one of my biggest years of sole personal production. I was at an IMO convention in my first couple of years of the business, and I heard a leader in that organization say to me, you should deliver all your policies. And I thought to myself, well, I'm going to do what I'm told here. It seems like that person's making a lot of money. Let's try it. What could it hurt? So for a good part of the next year, I delivered every single policy that I could. Now, you can't deliver all of them. Some of them don't get mailed to you. But that doesn't mean you can't make a 30-day touchback, right? That doesn't mean you can't deliver a thank you card or call them or visit them a second time. This is the tip that is also directly compatible to Medicare. If you're not making a 30 or a 90-day touchback with your client, if you're not answering their calls when they call, I can guarantee what should be very sticky business is not going to be. So I would encourage you, if you want good persistency, good policy placement, and you're not selling 30 or 40 policies a month where you're just not going to have the time to do this, try delivering your policies. No, don't deliver them on a Monday or a Tuesday afternoon. This is an amazing activity for you to do Friday after you've written your goal and the money you need to make is made. And you can go back and have a stress-free conclusion to your week, or one Saturday out of the month. Stack those policies high, put them in the front seat and hit the field and drop them off. I've always found as well when I'm delivering policies, this is a perfect opportunity for referrals, upsells, cross sells, and additional business you may not have found or discovered when you were there the first time. Next tip on persistency I have for you today, and hopefully I'm not stealing too much of Adam's thunder, but biggest mistake that I tend to make that would lead to fall off is writing the bank account down wrong. Like, have you done that before? Maybe comment below if you've made that mistake. I'm willing to admit live and on camera, I've done it plenty of times before. It's very easy to transcribe or cross over or miss a zero. And before you know it, you get an error, invalid account, no account located, or whatever it was, you're getting a chargeback. Well, guess what? Collect a voided check. Take a picture of a check, write it down, have them read it, double check it, whatever you need to do, make sure you have the correct bank information. One of the reasons I love Baltimore Life is Baltimore Life does a pre-check on the account. And if the account is incorrect, it tells you. So you almost can't make that mistake when you're using their product. Remember, you can look up routing numbers. You don't need to ask them for it. They actually find it pretty interesting on the consumer end that you already know it and you can find it. So don't worry about routing numbers. You can look those up, right? Make sure that you have the correct bank information. And if you get back that invalid account number or no account located, that's your mistake. We all make them, but go back and fix them. Number 3. Now, this one is super valuable, I think, to those of you that have just started to experience maybe that early wave of fall off, those chargebacks that come in right around month 4, 5, 6, and 7. You've never encountered this situation before, and the first time it happens, don't make the mistake that I made. So you're working out in the field. You're working over the phone. You're working midday, and you get an email from a carrier that Miss Johnson has canceled her policy. Guess what? Some of these carriers actually send out cancellation emails in real time. Some of them come in overnight. Some of them never tell you. Don't know why they would do that. But if you get a notification in the middle of the day that someone's canceled, let me tell you something. Do not run over to their house and immediately show up and bang on the door and try to find out why the flip they canceled. It doesn't work. I made this mistake before, and it cost me not only time in the field, other sales opportunities, but was a major kick in my confidence. And I see agents making these mistakes before, and I don't want you to do that. If you get a cancellation email in the middle of the day, direct from the carrier, and you rush over to that client's home, guess what? That's the wrong time to be there. Emotions are high, tensions are high, and showing up there is not going to help fix the situation. Or maybe you wake up in the morning, you wake up to a chargeback email, and you say to yourself, that son of a, I cannot believe she, and before you know it, you've dispensed with your plans for the day, and you're going over to her house the very first moment and banging on the door like you were just dumped by your high school girlfriend. Bad idea. Stick to the plan you had for the day, no matter what your email tells you. Here's what I suggest. And take it as it may, you come up with a list of those fall off situations. Call it your lapse list. And you write them down, you get them out of your email, you get them out of your eyesight, you put them in a black book aside for later. And after a successful sales week, you write your minimum 3,500. Maybe you write 5, 6, 7, it doesn't matter. You've hit your goal. Your money is made. Now you pull that book out, you go back and see those people, and guess what? Calmly and confidently after a successful week, you're going to conserve 1 out of 4 of them. Plain and simple. Next, when it comes to persistency, you got to have consistency. If you're selling 3,500 a week, hell or high water, which you got to be selling, or you're one kick in the pants for being kicked out of the business, and you're losing the statistical average of 10 to 15% that you're going to lose no matter how good or how good you are, and you're focusing on your primary company, your secondary company like Transamerica's Express product, and a third option as a last resort only, you're not going to fall behind on chargebacks. I promise. If you're outselling, you're going to lose a little bit of it. And as long as you're not spreading your business across 10 or 20 different companies, you're skipping weeks, you're getting lazy, you're underperforming. As long as you're doing your job correctly, you're going to have chargebacks, but they're never going to tear you down. Start changing that method around, and before you know it, you got 6K with one company, 3,000 with another, and you're hiding and rolling and skipping debts. Just try to stay ahead and get paid. Last one I have for you, then I'm going to turn the call over to Adam for his sales thoughts of the week, and then our long form training is something you've heard before. You know I'm going to say it, and it has to be said when it comes to persistency. It is true Social Security billing. I say it, Duford says it, Massey says it, Bowman says it, Whalen says it, because it works. Why did you watch carriers like Great Western collapse and fall out of the market? Because they didn't practice true Social Security billing. Their middle management knew it. Their upper management didn't. You know it, so I hope that's what you're practicing. True Social Security billing also means using the correct Social Security draft date. We don't ask what day do you want the money to come out. We don't make it an option. They tell you the 5th, you put down the 3rd. This isn't up for negotiation. Ms. Johnson, what day do you receive your Social Security? 3rd of the month. That's the end of the discussion. That's the date you're putting on the application. And if they say otherwise, guess what you're doing? You're still putting the correct date down on the application. Now, carriers that use true Social Security billing obviously improve your persistency. And your lead company, whatever that lead company is with us, should be a carrier that does this. In fact, your second choice, Transamerica Express, should be a company, is a company that does true Social Security billing. And we have plenty of other good, solid number 3 options that do the same. Again, the year that I had a 93% persistency as a sole personal producer, qualified for a trip to Hawaii, was on stage at an IMO convention, I led with a company that used true Social Security billing, and that's part of the reasons why. Adam, I'm going to switch over my audio to my headphones, so hopefully I fix our error on the noise today, and turn the call over to you for your thoughts on your sales week.
I needed to unmute. Thanks again, everybody. Good morning. So yeah, I'll go through my week. Honestly, it really wasn't that exciting of a week. Kind of like what you said, Chris, is that sometimes we really have to push and find those sales, and you just really never know how the week's going to go. I mean, you can expect a lot and end up with not a ton. Sometimes you could really expect the opposite. You could expect that, maybe you're not expecting to have the best of weeks. Maybe you didn't prepare well, but you find those sales. This week, I had like 25 new leads to work. I had the appointment setters setting up appointments for me. But honestly, I don't know. The week just kind of started off a little, I don't know. I can't really think of a word. A little different than usual, because usually I'm out in the field Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. But this week I had to mix it up a little bit. Was supposed to have a baseball game with my son on Tuesday. So I decided to take Monday as my day out in the field rather than Tuesday, and then take Tuesday as my office day. So just a little bit. I mean, I don't know. I didn't really feel like it was much different, just another day out in the field. But so I was out all day Monday. I had maybe 1 or 2 appointments set, just didn't really get a whole lot with the appointments. Door knocked leads, kind of the same results, just not really getting anybody at home. And so I totally struck out on Monday. Just nothing too exciting about my Monday, really nothing else to share about my Monday. And then Tuesday, when I could have been out in the field, I was home in the office. And then it rained all day. So the day that I planned on taking off, just sitting in the office and going out, having a coach at night. It didn't work out because we ended up getting rained out anyways. But anyways, Wednesday, kind of similar to my Monday. I had some appointments set, really wasn't getting a whole lot with anybody. I don't know if there's just something in the air or what, but just not great results. I sat down with a few people. I had a lot of cancellations, and it wasn't, or no shows, I guess you could say. And it wasn't the appointment setters. These were appointments that I had already kind of had on the books, people that maybe I had already talked with. And that's where, kind of like what I talked about last week, we can't depend on follow-ups. We really need to focus on making that sale on the initial visit, because and we can't give in to the person we're talking to. So many times it's, I'm just waiting to get paid. I'm just, starting a new job. I'm just looking for a new job. Like, well, they figure out ways to pay their other bills. I mean, they figure out how to pay their cell phone and their cable bill so they can watch TV. I mean, there's got to be a way that they can fit at least something into their budget. So we can't buy into the client. And I think that's sometimes we do. Sometimes we buy in. We know the people that we're working with are on a fixed income, at least in the final expense market. They don't have a whole lot to work with, but we just need to figure out a way to work it into their budget on the initial visit. Because like I said, the chances of making a sale after that, pretty slim. And Wednesday morning, first appointment was a guy I had talked to last week, wanted me to come back this week. Came back and the guy wasn't home. I called him. He just wasn't still ready to move forward. Of course he wasn't. Like I said, that's my own fault. I should have been better on the first visit to get it done right then and there. Kind of like the one person that I told later last week, well, I can't come back. I'm only allowed one visit. And like I said, to me, that's being honest, because I'm only going to allow myself one visit. So if that's, to me, I mean, that's an accurate statement to the client. The next one, same thing. I mean, the guy I couldn't get anywhere with him. No money, was going through a divorce, told him I couldn't come back. He just still wasn't ready. Appointment after that, same thing. So my Wednesday, same thing, was almost a wash. I ended up writing a policy holder of mine that she actually took out a new policy with me last month, and I screwed up the bank information. Like what Chris was talking about a few minutes ago, is a way to mess up persistency if you don't do your job correctly. Well, I mean, that was one that I had already gotten paid on, but because I was one digit off on the bank, well, that led to a chargeback that I ended up having to go back and rewrite. So my Wednesday, the only thing I wrote was a rewrite. And then yesterday, I actually did sit down with somebody that was kind of like a follow-up. It was one that I'd been working on for a while, actually. This lady, she had some pretty significant health issues. I sent Chris over. I took a picture of her medications, and I mean, she was like on a shopping list of meds. It was like 3 pages full of medications. But like looking at the medications and seeing what Chris had written earlier in the week, Chris wrote one with the Transamerica Express product. And I think he mentioned that the person was on a medication for seizures and a few other things. So yeah, I ran it by Chris. I figured, what the heck, maybe even though they're on all these different meds, and there's still a possibility, we don't know what else the person was taking or had previously taken over the last few years. But I did try running it through with the Transamerica, and it came back graded. I ended up moving forward with another option, another carrier. I actually switched over to I would almost call it like a guaranteed issue product with one of the fraternal companies that I'm contracted with. And I'm telling you, boy, the rates were awesome. I mean, they pretty much beat out everybody. And there was nobody that was going to give this person a first day coverage policy. I mean, based off of the medication that she was taking, I would have been sitting there all day trying to figure it out. And evidently, I think there was maybe like some heart issues going on. But I remembered, that with the Transamerica, I think they look at the whole picture. They don't just look at if the person's got like a heart issue, that's one thing. I think she just had too many other things going on with her outside of just one condition. That's why they pushed her to graded. But anyways, yeah, I went to the guaranteed issue. This lady was 59 years old, and I wrote her a $25,000 policy for $103 a month. So, I mean, I thought that was a great price for a guaranteed issue. I mean, most companies, I mean, even at that age, you're going to get maybe half as much coverage for $100 a month, maybe a little bit more, but not much. So, and then while I was finishing that one up, she pulled out this Mutual of Omaha graded mailer that she received. Their graded product where pretty much everybody is on a 2-year wait. And that's actually, it's like a guaranteed issue as well with the 2-year wait with the return of premium. And she said, I'm going to take this one out too for my brother. I'm the insured, but I want him to be the beneficiary on this policy. And the company that I wrote the guaranteed issue with, the 25,000 was the most amount of coverage that they would do. She was maxed out at 25,000. So the Mutual of Omaha mailer that she pulled out, the premium for 10,000, it was like, I don't know, $42.80 or something like that. So I was just kind of thinking about it for a minute. I just wrote her this policy that's just a return of premium as well, where if she were to pass away within the first 2 years, that's pretty much all the family's going to get back is the money that was paid in plus the 10% interest. So I was thinking about it, and I'm thinking, you know what? I know I can do a little bit better for her on another additional policy. So I went over the GTL with her. And I told her, I said, well, look at this plan, 10,000 in coverage. It's a few dollars more a month. It was 53 a month for 10,000 at her age. But I told her that the first year it's the return of premium, but after the 12th month, at least by next year, it's going to pay half of that face amount. I told her with the Mutual of Omaha, kind of just like the other policy we wrote, the family's still going to be at a lot of risk over the next couple of years. I said, at least with this GTL by next year, at least it's going to pay half. So it'll be worth 5,000 by month 13. I said, don't you think that's worth an extra $10 a month over that Mutual of Omaha that they're just going to return the premium? At least you'll be covered with 5,000 by next year. And she agreed. And so I ended up writing her 2 policies. I wrote her the one with the fraternal, which was, like I said, they call it graded. I look at it almost like a guaranteed issue. And that was 103 a month, and then the GTL for 53 a month. And then the rest of my day kind of went the rest of my week. Just not a whole lot. I had one appointment after that one. I showed up and the lady comes outside and says that her husband had COVID to come back in a couple weeks. I don't know if she was being honest or not. She might have just said that to try to shoo me away. But anyways, I'll go back in a couple weeks and see what I can do then. That's not going to be enough to push me away forever. I'm going to go back. So I put together a few other routes, sat down with a few people, just not much happening. And then it was about 5:00 at night. I ran and got a coffee and a small snack, and then I had a few leads that were like in another area that was about maybe 35, 40 minutes away. And I figured, well, heck, I mean, I'll drive over there because I'll have a little bit of time once I get over that way to hit, 3, 4 leads, whatever. So as I was driving, I got a phone call from a client of mine, and her niece needed insurance, and they were probably about an hour away. And I just ended up pulling over, and I talked to the niece on the phone, went over a few things with her. And then I ended up going over there. I decided rather than the direction I was heading, I ended up driving over to their place, and I ended up writing her up with her husband. And they were younger. She was 30, he was 32. It ended up being, I think maybe like a little over 700 annualized total between the two. It was like maybe 760 annualized, something like that. So not bad. I mean, like I said, the week was just kind of, I don't know. It was just kind of like not the best, but still wrote some business. I think I'm at a little over 3,000 for the week. I think maybe like 3,200 for the week. And I do have an appointment today. I usually don't work on Fridays out in the field. This is another one that I've been trying to get a hold of for a while. That it's like a guaranteed sale. It was actually one that it was one of my dad's policy holders that somehow the policy, they did like some sort of look back on it after it was issued. This carrier did this and they ended up rescinding it. There was just stuff that wasn't disclosed. He doesn't write a whole lot out of like the one carrier that he uses. So he said, well, go visit with this person. You can probably do something for her. So appreciate his help too. He's been in the business for, oh man, close to 50 years. And he doesn't get out in the field anymore pretty much at all. He does majority of his business over the phone. And this was just somebody, same thing, that maybe wanted to sit down with me or sit down with somebody, didn't want to conduct any more business over the phone. And I just have maybe some additional options that I can help her with. So yeah, like I said, that one is kind of just like an added bonus. I think it's a sure sale. That one I'm probably going to try to push through with the Transamerica Express. I haven't written any with them yet, but it looks like a good product. Tried it once or twice. I'm hoping for better results the third time. So, but that's about all I have on this portion of our call, Chris. Like I said, I don't think I really had a whole lot of excitement out there this week. Ended up writing a lot of fraternal business, which doesn't happen too often. I'd say 3 out of the 4 apps I wrote, 4 out of the 5 apps I wrote so far were with fraternal companies. So just kind of went that way. But and all right, we just closed off our call on over the phone, our conference call, and we will be starting our long form training on persistency here in just a couple minutes. I think Chris had a couple questions for me, so I'll throw Chris on here, and he went away. So I'll put Chris on as soon as he gets back, and then we can kind of go through a few things, and then we will conclude with our long form training here. So there we go. There's Chris.
All right. I think I have all the things.
Hold on. Give me 1 second, Chris. I gotta change my audio.
All right. Hopefully we make the transition as clean as possible. You know what's interesting? I have a lot of questions I wrote down about what Adam talked about for the week. I'm going to give them to you, and then we're going to give them to him, and we're going to see what you guys think. But as I said before, why are we here on StreamYard? So that we can interact with you. If you're part of the agency, if you're part of the social media audience, if you're part of the industry, ask a question, comment below, and we would love to answer them for you. So this training doesn't just include us talking to each other, but includes us talking with you and makes everybody together. Adam, are we all good on our audio on both your side and mine? Just a second. I've got my mic and my MacBook speakers. I can hear myself, but I can't quite hear you. Questions I'm going to ask him in a moment is how important teaching ourselves our own lessons are. Like I told agent of ours, Landon, this week, do not write debit card business. It's a waste of your time. It's a waste of your everything. And he's like, okay, I get it. The lady doesn't have a bank account. She's not going to keep it. It's not worth the time. What did I do a few weeks ago? I wrote a lady with a debit card, thinking to myself, you know what? It'll stick. It'll be fine. I type up the application. I call it out. I count it as premium. Guess what happens? Doesn't stick. No good. Waste of time. I wrote her Medicare. Thank God I did that. The lead turned into at least that opportunity. But guess what? It doesn't pay. If they don't have a bank account, they don't have a direct express. We've taught it. We've preached it. I got to practice it. What Adam was talking about earlier, how there are no B-backs, such an important lesson. He went back a couple times on a couple people, and guess what? Waste of time. You got one opportunity while you're there to get in the home and to give the presentation while they're on the phone or face to face with you. That's your chance. There are no B-backs. Before I get into some of the other questions I had for you on your conversation today, how are we on our audio? Okay. I don't know why I can't hear you. Looks like I can hear me okay. I'm going to step out of the studio. Adam, why don't you start the presentation? I'll try back in a second. Yeah, it looks like we don't hear Adam either. Adam, is Aaron and James said that they can't quite hear you. Hopefully they can hear me. I'll throw up the slide while he gives it a second to get the audio fixed. While we're working on getting Adam's audio fixed, I will go over this with you. Tom and Aaron, can you hear me? Hopefully you guys can hear me, as it looks like my audio says my mic is working, which it is. So hopefully you guys can hear me. Okay, perfect. Let's go over this while Adam gets the audio straightened out. We're working really hard on something that the agency knows about, but I want the general public to know about as well. Our appointment setting team is awesome. And we have availability next week for somebody to take my spot on the appointment setting roster. And we have the ability throughout annual enrollment for you to take advantage of the team we've trained, we've supported, and we use for our appointment setting. So this is available not only for our in-agency crowd, but obviously because we're live across social media right now, this is a platform available to you in the viewing audience. Our appointment setting team available to you. How does it work? Well, we've got 3 levels of options available. The Premier package, or the Elite package, sorry, is your dedicated dialer for a 40-hour period all week, the entire week, off of your fresh leads and any leads that you have compliantly speaking. They will dial for you and nobody else. The pricing you see on the screen right now. That's a pretty amazing offer considering that's a full-time week of someone just banging the phones for you. This works over the phone or in person, ideally in person, but they could set them over the phone for telesales as well. The second option, a dialer on the Premier package is $220 per week. They're going to dial approximately 20 hours per week for you, and they're going to set a good amount of appointments. They're going to work your fresh leads that may not be from last week or the week before, but all compliantly generated leads, and they're going to set as many appointments as possible for you. And then we have the basic package. This is kind of like flying Spirit Airlines, kind of like taking the Greyhound bus. It's a very discounted rate that we essentially eat the cost of in many situations, but it's going to get you a few appointments. It's going to take your leads, get you in front of a few people you wouldn't have found before, get you out the door on time, get you into the field on a day you may not have done it. But that's available to you on the basic package for $125. So dedicated dialer $440, the Premier package $220, or a basic appointment setting opportunity, kind of like Spirit Airlines, get what you get for around $125. If you're watching right now and you have interest in Adam's appointment setters, our appointment setting team, my email address is below, or you can drop a comment in the video and I will get back to you. Now that we've got that commercial out of the way, how's our audio looking now? Okay. Not quite sure why we are not able to hear each other. Maybe if we dispensed from the mic and just went on the regular side, we'd be able to hear each other okay? Okay. James, Kendra, Aaron, Tom, are you guys able to hear Adam on his side?
Testing.
No! The world has come full circle and I can hear you. Perfect.
All right.
Right.
Sounds good, boy. I don't know.
Yeah.
Lately, my computer did an update like a week ago. Last week, I had no mic, no camera. I don't know what the deal is. I think they purposely do stuff like that because they want you to go out and buy new equipment. So, but
I hear you. I
think it's working now. But yeah, Chris, I think it's great to open up the appointment setting to other people out there. It's something I think a lot of people are looking for. I think a lot of people, they see the value in it. They're looking for help when it comes to that. I mean, we've already got it all set up. We've got people trained that you've
Mhm.
spent a lot of time with. That I mean,
Yeah.
these people, they know how to handle pretty much all portions of the call and how to handle those different objections that they get on the phone. They're real good at setting up the appointments. So, uh, yeah, I mean, someone else could do the same thing and maybe spend a ton of time trying to figure it out. But I've always been one who's always said, heck, if someone else already has it figured out, I'd rather pay them to do it.
Let me
So,
tell you this too. We all of our appointment setters use the Kixie dialing service, and if you signed up as your own individual, just Joe the agent watching this video right now, and found out that our appointment team uses Kixie dialing, and you wanted to sign up for it yourself, you're talking $300 and $400 per account per agent on your own retail pricing. Both of our appointment setters use their own dedicated Kixie dialer, and that's built into the pricing. Like, we're not even charging you extra, and we're paying extra for them to be using power dialing. And Adam, every single time they dial the phone, they dial from a local number and they dial from a different number. Like, that technology alone would cost you as the individual agent $300-$400 a month. And that's built into our platform as well. So hopefully, if you guys find that to be interesting, drop me a comment, send me an email, and we can get you set up next week.
well, the amount of time that they spend to get those appointments set. I mean, I'll look at, we all share like our spreadsheets of leads with the appointment setters, and like I'll take a look at it, and I mean, you can see the activity and you can see like how many times they're calling these people. And that's where, I've kind of said in the past, people don't answer their phone, but if they get called 1,000 times by the same number, sooner or later they're going to pick up. So, so that's one thing that I like, is that they put the time in that I don't have the time to put into setting appointments, and they really do try their best to fill up the week, and that's their job, is just to set us up appointments. It's really our job to do the rest. It's not a guaranteed sale because they set you up an appointment,
Mhm.
but it at least adds that structure to your day. Uh, I've been much more profitable, I think, since I've used the appointment setters, because it's adding that structure that I never used to have, where all I ever used to do was just door knock leads. I still do that as well, but it helps to have that structure. I've even said it even helps me to get out of the house maybe a little bit faster in the morning when I know I got to get to that 9 a.m. appointment. So,
Hey,
uh,
they'll even call your book of business. If you're watching this and you're getting ready for annual enrollment, you've gotten some fresh leads, you want to write those 50 or 100 enrollments, or you want to go back and see your existing clients, they will set those too. They'll set anything with a phone number and a human being behind the line. And if that human's going to answer the phone, they'll answer it for this team.
all right, so let's go ahead and move forward, Chris, with the topic for today, which, yeah, I didn't even know. Maybe you kind of had the same thoughts, kind of going into the morning, talking about a little bit about persistency before I even put up what we were going to be talking about. But yeah, I think we'll be fine. I think we all, we both have a lot of well, thoughts on a lot of this stuff, and maybe some stuff that's a little bit different. But let me go ahead and add that back on here. I didn't even have a chance to go through this. This is a presentation that I put together a while ago, so I don't think there's anything that I've changed on here. If there is, we'll find it. But yeah, I just titled today's training "Persistency Power: Deal with Less Chargebacks." I mean, that's something everybody would like, right? Dealing with less chargebacks. One thing too, I think that so much of this is about just consistently producing, and just kind of having the right mindset, and not thinking a whole lot about the money that you owe. I mean, I've had guys on lead financing in the past where right away they're in debt, and then chargebacks kick in. It's like they're thinking way too much about the debt, where it makes it hard for them to get out and go to work. Uh, where I just kind of look at it as it all kind of works itself out as long as you're out there writing business. Don't think too much about the sales that you're making and the commissions that you're earning. Just think more about the next sale. And the more sales you make, well, like I said, everything is just going to kind of work itself out, where you're not going to really have to worry about a ton of chargebacks. But there are little things that we can help you with, I think, as well, that can improve your persistency. That will see, I mean, not only chargebacks, but if you can improve your persistency. Oh, I know this is your favorite
Oh
favorite one
no.
here, Chris. If you can improve your persistency, well, that also means that that's going to help you build more renewals. I mean, renewals, yeah, they're not the highest and final expense, but if you write a lot of business over time, it is going to add up. I think so many agents, they just focus on those 12 months. Like, as long as this piece of business makes it past those 12 months, well, then I'm in the clear. Uh, to me, I mean, you want that thing to stay on the books for as long as possible, because you're going to build up those renewals. You don't want to have to go back all the time and like write new business. That's not really in the best interest of the client either. I mean, we want the client to have something that's solid, that's there, that's going to stick, that's guaranteed, that we know for sure is going to pay out. So what I mean by that, all plans out there have like a contestable period. Even if they're in perfect health, there's still a chance that if they were to pass away within the first 2 years, that claim's not going to be paid. So we want that business to stay on the books. It's in our client's best interest for that business to stay on the books. And that's really what we got to focus on, is what's in the best interest of our clients. And if anything, we can focus on maybe adding additional coverage later. But yeah, persistency, like I said, not only when we're talking about not having to deal with a lot of chargebacks, but let's talk about building up those renewals too. Because heck, you build up your renewals, that's your lead money. Then you have your investment already every week from the money that you've earned in renewals. So I always tell people the first 9 months are the hardest, because you got to make it past that 9-month advance, and then months 10, 11, 12 start kicking in, and then you have the renewals kicking in. So it gets easier the longer you do it. But yeah, we'll talk today primarily about ways of trying to conserve business, keeping that business on the books, and just some little tips that can help with not having to deal with a whole lot of chargebacks.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I posted in the StreamYard, but if you're watching live on another method, you may not be able to see, is one of the 3 ways I survived the first month of COVID shutdown was having a quality book of business to fall back on and add coverage to. That quality book of business to add coverage to that was paying renewals that were helping pay the bills, and savings, like saving more than you spend so that if the world shuts down, your business doesn't shut down. Those are the 3 things that got me through that. And it was persistency in that book of business that was 2 of those major factors.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. So yeah, so like I said, from the beginning, mindset I think is important. Writing an application and earning a commission, that's just step one. We can't look at it as just one sale and like we're never going to see that person ever again either. Like, we want to treat our clients like they're our clients for life. It's funny, I said that before I even knew what was coming up. So that's really what we need to do. Show your clients that you care, like, truly, and they will stick with you. And I've even told people in the past, like, if you don't see the value in this, wait until one of your clients dies and go to the funeral and do your part to see that claim is paid quickly. Show up at the funeral and you'll see what a difference that what you did made to an entire family, even an entire community. So yeah, show your clients that you care. My presentation, we kind of went through last week. It hits home a lot with the clients. They feel good. By the time I leave, they like me. They know I'm there for them. And it makes a big difference. Half the time they're giving me a big hug when I leave. So yeah, show your clients that you actually truly do care, and try to actually truly care. Like, don't just fake it. Like I said, if you have to take that extra step, go to a funeral at some point of one of your clients, once it gets to that point, maybe that'll help. I've done it. And, that even has led to future business. So I'm sure, what do you think about mindset when it comes to this sort of thing, Chris?
Well, you want your clients to keep what you sold because otherwise, like, why did you even bother? I remember a while back, I went out on a day I wouldn't normally work. I only had a few hours to work before the kids got home from school. And I thought to myself, if my ass is going to be out here dressed, ready to work, bag packed, appointment set, mindset on selling, then what I'm good at selling better stick. Like, I'm not going to take this time that I wouldn't normally take, go into a high stress situation where I only have a few hours to do it and then write business that falls off a week later. Like, what an incredible waste of time that would be. I could be doing other things. So why not do this to the best of my ability? And then once I did it once, I kind of carried that a little bit into every day and thinking to myself, why am I going to be in this home in sometimes these austere conditions with these type of folks that I wouldn't socialize with on a regular basis, take time away from my family, my agency, and not write good business? Like, why else would I waste my time? So I think that's an important thing to tell yourself. Like, take pride in the work that you do, the business that you write. Some of it's going to fall off no matter what you do, and there's nothing you can do about it. But you can take that little extra step, like we talked about last week, so that the business that you write is good quality and stays more often than others.
I think too, when we're working with agents, Chris, that sometimes we got to kind of look and figure out like what is the agent doing that they're, that they have business that's fallen off the books. I mean, I've had agents, where they write a good amount of business and then you see business falling. Are they on the trainings? Are they following like what we teach them when it comes to a lot of
No,
this stuff?
nope,
Are they
not at all.
overselling? Are they
Yep.
just focused on face amounts and rates like we talk about? Like if all you're selling is face amounts and rates, you're making your business easily replaceable. Uh, Sometimes I think maybe when people are brand new to the business too, they're just focused on making those sales to earn those commissions that maybe they're just trying to write the highest premium possible to someone that is only earning $700 or $800 a month in some cases.
Yeah,
I don't know. I
it's
think there's a
it's all
lot
those things.
behind it too.
It's all those
Yeah.
things. Like I would say I had an agent a couple months ago roll a few $1,000s of debt on a carrier, and part of it was my fault. I'm like, sure, broker agent, take them on, no big deal. They write some of their business with me, some of their business elsewhere. What's the harm in that? Well, as soon as they build up a little bit of debt, they ain't gonna write it, and they're gonna go back where they were. Partly my fault. Second, every time I dug into their cases when they would show up as chargebacks, the draft dates were freaking wrong. Like, what are you doing? Were they ever on a training to be told that was a problem? No, they were too good for it.
Yep.
And where was the business even coming from? I don't know. I know when we're working with the leads and the agents are buying the leads and I see the leads, that's where it's coming from. But if I don't know where this business is coming from, the chance that this business is going to be good, persistent business is ever increasingly lower. And it's just all those things that you said that lead to chargebacks is agents that are too good or know too much or don't need to do it,
Yeah.
or worse, buying leads from unvetted sources that might get them sued and us sued. And that could be just as catastrophic.
Well, one group under me, Chris, that that writes a fair amount of business, but never comes on any of our calls, any of our trainings. They have the poorest persistency. They have the most chargebacks. Imagine that. But
They'll
yeah,
never hear you say that either.
sometimes, yeah, they're not going to hear me say it because they don't come on this stuff anyways. They're too good. They know everything. They know it all, and that's why their persistency is so horrible. But that's the thing. Like people maybe need to drop the ego. I mean, Chris, me and you, we've been doing this a long time and we know what works. We're here to help people. And when some people, sometimes I think it's almost like a control thing. If they have their own agency, they just want their people listening to them. Well, evidently you're not teaching them good enough if you and the rest of your agents have the poorest persistency in our agency. So
Yeah.
moving forward. But like I said, they're not going to hear us anyways.
No.
Selling tips to help with persistency. I always say, just like the training last week when I went through my presentation, if you haven't watched it, you can go back and watch the pre-recorded live on the different YouTube channels, the Insurance Life and everything in between, as well as the Adam Bersan YouTube channel. And the audio is already on the Apple and Spotify and all that, the podcast formats. So I always recommend go, listen to that stuff while you're driving around all day. But yeah, the need, I focus on the need and I focus on affordability. Those to me are the most important things. Um, I talk about how much funerals cost. I might talk about how much they've gone up since I've gotten in the business and the fact that they're probably going to go up more. Uh, but then I also want to make sure that it's affordable for the client. I talk about affordability and I ask about affordability even before I put a quote together. Is $90 to $100 a month affordable, or is that outrageous? Oh, that's just way too high. How about 80 to 90? How about 70 to 80? Sooner or later, they're going to tell me what's affordable. And then I'll just kind of work off it from there. Sometimes I put 3 quotes together and the one they go with is actually higher than what they told me was affordable. But when I talk about affordability first, they can't come back after I put some quotes together and say, well, everything sounds good, but I just don't think I can afford it. So you already told me that what you can afford. So like I said, a lot of what we teach and a lot of the training, we like to bring up different objections or smoke screens before they come up. And yeah, if you didn't watch the presentation last week, you'll notice that I do a lot of that. So I'd recommend to go back and listen or watch it. And I think you'll see that. And then I sell on value, not just face amounts and rates. There's many different ways that you can add value to what you're doing. I bring up the fact that the companies that I work with have good track records of paying their claims quickly. That to me, that could be enough. I go through a little planning guide. Pretty much all these different carriers, if you go through the supplies, you can order a planning guide, go through that with the client. I've had people tell me, well, my other insurance doesn't do this. Well, it's just a piece of paper, but it's adding that value because it's going to give their family a lot of guidance when that time comes. It's going to make their life a little bit easier because they have something to work off of. And just little things like that make a difference. We talked about Everest last week, or like the Sequoia. I've written plenty of business because of those sort of things. But those are all things that are separating like what I'm doing or what Chris is doing from other people out there that are setting themselves up to get hit with chargebacks because all they're focused on is face amounts and rates. If all you're focused on is face amounts and rates, well, the next guy that shows up that can offer that client something a few dollars cheaper, or maybe get them this more coverage for the same as what they're currently paying, well, then you've lost all credibility. But when you sell that value of all the other things, talk about that Everest. I mean, that gives my clients that mindset of this isn't just another insurance. This is my funeral plan. So
Yeah.
little things
What's
like that
interesting is
make the business unreplaceable.
price does have a place. Price has a place, especially in the independent space where you're able to beat the rate and give them better value by getting them better coverage, but you can't become price dependent. If you talk somebody into something that they didn't really want, it doesn't matter how cheap it was, they're not going to keep it. If you if you can't get them to name a beneficiary or why they want it or what it's for or what happened that led you into their home or on the phone, then guess what happens? That's where those stop payments come from, or those accounts they closed and opened another one. Those are the situations where you didn't create enough value to even get it through a 30-day cycle. So understand the importance of price when price comes into play, but doesn't mean price is the only part of the process. Value is a multi-factored situation here. And persistency, one thing doesn't keep it on the books. Multiple things help build good persistency.
And then, set draft dates properly. That should be a no-brainer. Shouldn't even have to bring that one up, but that is a huge part of it. I think that, my ideal client is somebody who's on Social Security, that they get paid either on the first, the third, or the second, third, or fourth Wednesday of the month. But, one thing, Chris, I could say this is on a bank draft. What's a good date? And if they say the 5th, I'm not just writing down the 5th. I think a lot of agents, that's what they do. The person tells them the best day, and then they just, okay, and then they just kind of go from there, but they're setting themselves up for chargebacks. I want to make sure this payment is taken out before they have a chance to touch their money. And because unfortunately, a lot of times, like my clients, they get their deposit, they're running to the bank and they're pulling out all their money for the month. They still use cash for a lot of what they are spending their money on. So So that's where I want to make sure we take this out before they have a chance to touch their money. So if they tell me the 5th, well, the next thing I'm going to ask them is, well, when do you get paid? Like the 1st or the 3rd? And if they say the 3rd, I tell them, well, we actually have to set it for that date. Just like when I say that, I'm only allowed one visit, kind of the same thing. We have to set it for that date. It has to be set up to coincide with your Social Security. Same thing with
Well,
the
we work
first.
directly with Social Security, so why would it be a different day? Like
Yeah.
you have to control the conversation. Like part of persistency problems is when you've opened yourself up for areas where they're not, oh, I'm just going to give you my debit card. Oh, well, it's obviously attached to a checking account. Let's go ahead and get the checking account information. Like take control of the presentation. You're a highly paid, hopefully skilled, ethical professional, and you're not going to let them tell you how to do the business. Adam, Aaron had a question that has a lot to do with what you just asked, and I think it would be fun to discuss it because that's why we're on StreamYard, for y'all to ask questions that we can answer, so we appreciate it. She asked, what do you say to somebody who wants the policy but can't make the first payment until the following month? Now, in that situation, it sounds like she's drafting the first payment during that first visit, which is awesome, which is why she's got incredible persistency. But in the situation where someone can't make that first payment within 3 to 5 days of the application, how do you walk that back into it's okay for it to start the next month?
Yeah, I mean, it really just depends on how far out. Like if it's within 30 days or 45 days, usually we can put them in a plan where that first premium is not going to be drafted until that far out. So I don't know. I mean, you can try to push. Usually I don't know. I don't know if you do it differently, Chris, but usually if they tell me like right now, maybe they tell me, I can't set it up for the 3rd of October. I probably have a carrier where I can just set it up for the 3rd of November at this point, and it's not going to be an issue. So I usually just leave it at that. If they can't start it right now, I mean, sometimes maybe they are on a budget. Their bills are already paid for the month, but that gives them 30 days to kind of figure out their bills and figure out a way to fit this into their budget.
Yeah, Aaron, if you're on with us still, do you tend to collect the first payment during the initial presentation, or do you tend to post date most of the things? Because I think Adam and I typically just default into post dating. Other agents typically do the opposite. But if you start by collecting that first payment in the presentation and they say, well, I can't do it, or you're really getting that vibe that it's a money issue about why they're not moving forward, what I would say is, let me see if I can get an exception, look a little bit busy. Okay, no big deal. Looks like they're able to go ahead and have it start on October 3rd. That's not a big deal. Yep. So she commented on Facebook. She always collects the first month's premium, which is why her persistency is incredible. But if they do give you pushback on that situation, make it a little bit more of the presentation, a little bit more of the performance. Get out that iPad, look like you're busy, get permission to post date it for October, and then get that business locked up.
Hey, there you go. Another date, people like I might say this is on a bank draft. What's a good date? And they might tell me the 15th. Well, right there, they're probably thinking, well, I always get my Social Security now in the middle of the month. Well, people get paid on the second Wednesday. They get paid on the third Wednesday. They're probably thinking the second Wednesday. Well, the second Wednesday could also fall on the 8th of the month. So if I set it for the 15th, well, I just gave that person a whole week to play around with their money. So it's like just little things like that. Like they might give you a date, but then ask more questions. If it's not a Social Security payday, well, they probably don't realize we can actually set it for the second Wednesday or the third Wednesday. They would prefer that anyways. They like that. But I think a lot of times they just assume that it has to be on a date and not just a specific day of the week. So again, ask more questions. Be sure to set those draft dates to coincide with their Social Security. And I work with people that are on Social Security. I mean, that's my ideal client. That's why I like Final Expense, because majority of our clients are on some form of Social Security. I much prefer dealing with people that are on Social Security than people that just get paid every other week through their job.
Yeah.
It's just much better business when it's that guaranteed money that's always on that specific date.
In a lot of cases too, and I can't promise this in every situation, but we're trying to even mail 60 and above and cut out a lot of that 50 to 59 in the direct mail crowd, because you get someone that's, I paint houses and I put money in my account when I have a few bucks. Walk away, like walk away. Or, I worked, but I was laid off and I'm getting a new job next week. And you could tell if it doesn't seem like it's good quality business and you can't afford the chargeback, leave. If you write it and it falls off and it's not going to phase you, your discretion. But in that first 1 to 2 years where you need every app to pay every bill and a chargeback can set you back, it's okay to be a little bit conservative. And if you're in a situation and you're not sure if this is a good thing to do or not, ask us, reach out, send us a text, give us a call, and we'll walk through it with you. I have no problem telling an agent to get up and leave the home. This isn't a good opportunity for either of you. So if you're not sure, just ask.
Yeah. Yeah. That's another thing. Yeah. Don't be afraid to walk away from business. I talked about one this was probably 6 months ago now at this point, but I
Mhm.
remember I walked into the house and I mean, it was, it was a husband and a wife and like 4 adult children that like all still lived at home. I'm talking about people like my age that were just still living at home. It just didn't seem like a good situation. The house was a total disaster. The daughter wanted to use her prepaid debit card to pay, where, yeah, there was an account and a routing number associated with it, but same thing. It didn't seem like it would be good business that would stick. And if you really want to screw up your persistency,
There you
write
go.
6
There you
applications
go.
in one house that all fall off with the same carrier. Uh,
There you go. Like you literally wrote the book in that presentation about why some captive companies have household caps, because
yeah.
excited new agents get it in that situation. And this is like the biggest red flag of them all, because we're all going to run into them, especially when we're new and we need the money. And the client's like, you know what? I want to get everybody in this house insurance. And you're like, yes, thank God, I saved my week. And you know what? I want to get it to them next week. So can you come back next week? And that agent, Adam, is like so excited all week because that lady said, come back on Thursday. She's going to write up the whole family. And either you show up and there's nobody there and you based your entire week around this one if, or you do show up there and she's like, I got this net spend card and he's getting insurance. They're getting insurance and she's getting insurance. And my cousin across the street's getting insurance. And you start totaling up this premium and calculating your comp. And you're like, yes, breakthrough moment. And it all charges back. And
Yeah.
then the carrier you wrote it with is like, you know what? That's terminated. I'm not dealing with that nonsense. It's just such a
I've
huge red flag situation.
Yeah, I mean, I had an agent that was pretty good agent, and he wrote a fair amount of business, and that was his biggest issue was he would write 4 or 5 people in one home, they'd fall off. I mean, yeah, I mean that's a big knock on your persistency. And then he'd go back and rewrite them, and then the same thing would happen again. So then he's got 4 knocks on his persistency turned into 8.
Mm.
And I think I ended up having to terminate the guy. He was a good guy. I mean, a lot of the people that I work with, we build relationships, friendships and that. But there's also a business side of the business, especially when I was an employee with a company. I mean, I kind of got to the point where I just had to say, sorry, wish we could keep you around, but your metrics are they're
Awful.
horrible. It's not
Yeah.
profitable business. So, but I think it was a lesson learned. I mean, we actually reconnected later on and had worked together again for a while, but I think he did learn from his mistakes, which is good. That's the thing. I think as long as you learn, that's not what you want to do. I mean, like he wasn't one out there that was purposely writing bad business. He would, like you said, maybe he's excited. Oh man, I'm going to write 4 or 5 apps in this one house. This is great. Where I was not afraid to just get up and walk out when I saw a business that was probably going to fall off next month. When we get advanced commission, you want to look at that as you want to look at that as you don't want to write it if it's going to feel like a loan, and it's going to feel like a loan if you got to pay it back all the time. It's a lot harder to make money when you always have to focus on writing 2 apps to make money, because you got to write one to clear up a chargeback and another one to actually see some profit. So moving forward here, let's see where we're at. Yeah, don't give the client a reminder that they can always cancel. Like we hear agents where maybe as like a last ditch effort, they use the whole, well, we just need to see if we can get you qualified today. And you're going to have 30 days to look over your policy anyways once you get it. And if you decide you don't want it, just, you can always just call in and cancel. And I know we've talked about that too, Chris. I've always said, like, if you close that way, and the first thing when they get that policy in the mail, the first thing they remember is, oh yeah, that's that policy that I got to cancel when it
You've
that
trained them.
just
You've
showed up.
like anti-trained them on that situation.
Yeah,
Like I had people say before, well, like at the end of the presentation, what if I decided a little bit later I didn't really want it? And I'm like, whoa, 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 slow down. Well, Adam,
yeah,
if you're already telling me you're not sure if you want it and do you have to keep it, like maybe we just shouldn't do this in the first place. Like you're not going to hurt my feelings, but I don't want you thinking that before I have even left yet. And I think agents are just so desperate to get the sale, get the account information, get off the phone or get out the door. They're afraid to ask them any questions about what we did, any concerns. Do you feel comfortable? Are you happy? Do you feel like you have some more peace of mind now that we've gotten this taken care of? Like I would much rather, and feel free to disagree with me, an agent write a clean 4,000 a week with an 80% persistency then write 10K and you're constantly seeing their names on NSF reports.
most definitely. That's just a big headache. Um, yeah, it's all about writing quality business and just these little things. I mean, there's ways to make sales without having to push that 30-day look. Um, but if you leave a home and you're just like keeping your fingers crossed as you leave, like hoping that business sticks, then you probably shouldn't have wrote it to begin with.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, like I said, if it feels like a loan, that's not good business.
No, I felt that way
So
before too. Like if you're walking back to your car and you're like, oh man. And they're probably feeling the same way on their couch right now. Like, oh man.
and what
Like
usually happens by probably 2-3 hours later, you're getting a phone call.
yeah, like if you don't feel good about it, they sure as shit don't feel good about it. And
Yeah.
you should feel good about most of what you're doing. Now, there are occasions where you're like, is there any way that's gonna stick? And it does. Sometimes people defy the odds, but so much of final expense is an emotional sale. They better feel good after you've closed the door and walked out of their apartment.
Yeah, yeah. You don't, if there's like any sort of like uncomfortable feeling when you're leaving, like you did not do your job. You don't want there to be any kind of discomfort. If anybody else got in the way, like someone walked in and like I had one a few weeks ago, daughter shows up. What are you doing? You don't need that. Like I had to kind of settle the daughter down. I'm like, she's doing this for you. Like you're the one who's going to benefit from this. Don't you understand that? Like, do you have 10 grand laying around in the bank? Because something happens to your mom tomorrow. Well, who's going to pay for it? So she understood like the importance of it. But yeah, I mean, if I would have just left without kind of like reselling it to the daughter, I probably would have gotten a call a few hours later to just forget it.
I
So
think I think this is one that we don't talk about enough because we give these kind of presentations and these topics pretty regularly. But if somebody new enters the conversation, either in the home or it appears that they get a phone call and they answer the phone and it sounds like it's somebody important, I'm not afraid to say, do you want me to explain what's going on? Like I'll do one of these. I would much rather engage that family member if it sounds like they need to be engaged in the conversation right then and there. And I would much rather have that family member tell me to F off and get out of the home than submit an application that falls off anyway. And family, Adam, I bet you would agree, is either going to concrete, steel, rebar, lock in that sale, or they're going to be a complete, sabotage to the process. There's
yeah,
very little middle ground I find with family, and I would rather have them on my side, have them understand it, have them as a referral, than have them call the person back and say to them, why'd you give that information out? Cancel that, close the account. You shouldn't do that. They want to know like what's going on.
yeah, for sure. And that's like I said, I mean, if you got to take a little bit of time to explain it to whoever to solidify it, well, then do that. You want to leave with a good feeling. You don't want to leave feeling like we said, like with your fingers crossed, just hoping that it sticks, because more than likely you will get a call a few hours later. So then, number 6 on the slide. I mean, we've already just been talking about this. Don't be afraid to walk away from bad business. So, little commercial here in between. Check out our podcast, the Insurance, Life, and Everything in Between podcast. And we are on Spotify. We're on Apple. I see more and more activity. I look at the analytics, and more people are hopping on and listening and downloading. And I think people appreciate the content, because I don't know, I don't feel like there's a lot of really good insurance podcasts out there that are kind of based on training, based on people like Chris and I that still get out in the field. We know the business, we teach it to others, and we still kind of stay up to date on things. We still go out in the field and write business. I think a lot of leaders out there maybe never even have written a policy in their life. It's like, how can you train somebody if you've never done it yourself? So, but that's why, like I said, check it out. Spotify, Apple, Amazon. You could even tell Alexa to play our podcast, and it'll play. So check it out. iHeartRadio, a whole bunch of other ones that I've never even heard of. But heck, if you have it, check it out. So then after the sale, okay, so we're talking about ways to improve persistency after the fact. Well, it's good to save copies of all of your applications. I think legally you're supposed to do that anyways. And I make folders on my my iCloud. Actually, I have a clients folder. What I like about that is that I can look up any of my clients and find their applications. I can search them by name. I make the file name their last name, comma, their first name. And then if anything, maybe I'll add the date to it if they have multiple policies with me. But that way, if they ever have to call me about something, I can usually just look them up right away. I can look up their application right away. I mean, heck, if you write a lot of business, you're going to forget what carrier you wrote the piece of business with. And you don't look good either when they call and they have a question about their policy and you have to be like, who's that with? I mean, you want to know what company you wrote the business with on the person. So it's good to save copies of all of that stuff. Create a spreadsheet too. Or even if you use like a CRM, that's useful as well. Just any way to kind of keep track of your clients. And I like creating a spreadsheet of my leads as well, because the leads, even if I didn't write the person, I can go back. I can do my own mailers. I've sent out postcards in the past, and I've gotten calls back. People that maybe didn't respond to a phone call, maybe didn't answer their door when I went by, but they got something from me in the mail. Then they actually called me on it. So, and then I think it's good to do annual reviews. So if you have your policyholder spreadsheet, well, then you can create leads out of it. You just have to use like any kind of document creator like Microsoft Word. You can do like a mail merge and you can create like a lead piece. I'll show you what I'm talking about here in a minute. But if anything, you could, when you write that piece of business, you could set a reminder on your phone for an annual review for the following year. You could set a reminder right away. And then that way you'll know when that 12 months has been passed, and then you can go back and see the person again, keep them up to date on things, keep them, you want to make sure you are their insurance agent. You don't want anybody else getting in the house, replacing your business. The more you're in front of your clients, the better. And that can lead to referrals and everything everything else as well. But yeah, this is kind of like what it looks like. All the different parts of the spreadsheet that I have, like all the different, the name, the address, the city, the state, the zip, these are all just parts of the spreadsheet. But then I'm able to create a lead on it. Like I said, I'll use like a mail merge sort of thing in Microsoft Word. And then I create a lead just like this. And then I just add that into my, like my Notability is like one of the ones we use to kind of keep track of our leads. So I just add it right into there. And if I'm in that area, I'll just add it into my route. So that gives me more people to see. So like I said, maybe when it comes to improving persistency, this, this doesn't do a whole lot, but it does help. Just again, kind of being and staying in front of your clients
Yeah,
and
I think
and leading to additional business.
Yeah, I think you could even use your Google Calendar. And if you wake up and you don't have enough appointments on the calendar, use our appointment team like we talked about in the commercial segment in the beginning of the training. And you just don't have a full day of appointments. And you've been on leads in the field, at it for a year. Guess what you can do? Scroll back in your calendar to September 27th, 2023. And whoever you saw there last year, go back and see this year. And if you're working the same territories over and over again, because you should learn how to own a market. And if you're selling face to face, over the phone's a little bit different. But guess what? If you were there last September, you're probably not that far away this September. And guess what? They're going to be happy to see you. Adam, the very first person I ever sold a policy, God rest her soul. The 9th month, I was back in that building, back in front of her, asking about if she wanted to add coverage. And guess what she did?
What you do, Chris?
She added coverage. I'm like, this shit works. And guess what? All the times I went back to see somebody because I didn't know what else to do that hour of the day. I went into a home once and I had written the brother probably 2,000 or 3,000 AP. And I had a bad day. I was in their area. I went back to see them. And those two dudes had just bought pre-need policies, double the size of what I sold them a few months ago. Was able to upgrade them from that. Like, we think to ourselves, well, we only ever going to see them once. And if I go back, they're going to instantly cancel. And I should never go back again and never call them. You're missing additional opportunities because, as you so commonly say, if they respond to this form of marketing that brought you into their home, they're going to respond to other forms of marketing from other agents and buy from other people if you're not staying in front of them.
Well, yeah, and heck, if you door knocked the lead the first time, well, they already know you now. They're going to let you in again. And like we talking about the need and talking about affordability. Well, on the initial visit, maybe all they can handle is enough if they were to pass away tomorrow. Maybe they can only handle enough coverage. Maybe they could only handle a $10,000 or $15,000 policy. But that's where when I go back, I'll show you. And I think that's probably one of the next slides here. When I go back, I'm going to go through and, real quick, I'll just kind of go through the little script here. This is if I go to the door. Hey, Mrs. Jones, remember me, Adam, with Unity Life Group? I was over about a year ago and helped you with your final expense plan with American Amicable, whatever company it would have been with. I was in the area and just wanted to stop by to do a quick review just to make sure everything is still set up the way that you'd like. Do you have 5 minutes to go over it real quick? Like I said, they're going to let you in. And then I'll sit down. Thanks so much for being a good client. I'm so glad I was able to help you with this. This is important. And at least your family will be taken care of when that time comes. And then I'll pull out the application that I wrote the year prior, and I'll go through it with them. Now I have down here that Susie, your daughter, she's down as your beneficiary if something happens, and that your son Michael is second. Like if something happened to you and Susie at the same time, then Michael would kind of take care of everything. Is that still how you want things set up? If they want to update their beneficiaries, well, then at least we can do it right then and there. If everything's good, well, then that's fine too. And then I'll just say, I see you have $15,000 and you're paying $60 a month. And then that comes out on the 3rd of each month. And now you're 65 years old right now. Now you're probably going to live to be at least 85 or 90, don't you think? And I say it just like that. And they're always saying, oh yeah. My mom lived to be 92. So, we got good genes. I'm going to live to be probably at least 85, 90 years old. So I'm just setting this up. I pull out the funeral cost inflation chart. If you guys want a copy of this, I'd be happy to share this with you. Just something that I put together that kind of goes over it goes over the inflation rate, average inflation from 1972 to 2022, which averaged out to 4.02%. So that's what I have down in the left-hand column. And then the column next to it, I have inflation at 6%. Now, we had inflation last year at one point. It was up to 8%. When I was putting this chart together, I tried it at 8%, and it was disgusting to see how much funerals went up. I had to lower it down to 6%. So, but I go through this with the person. She already told me she's going to live to be 85, 90 years old. She's 65 now. Well, right now, as you can see, Mrs. Jones, the average cost for your funeral is going to run probably between about 12,000 and 15,000. Now, you just told me you're going to live another 20 years. Well, in 20 years, in the year 2044, I mean, you're looking at probably between 25 and 30,000 to cover your funeral. So it's great that you have the 15,000 now, but what happens when you live another 20 years? Because like you said, your mom, she lived to be 92. She had really good genes. You're going to probably still be here then. It's great that you have enough for now, but I think, we need to consider maybe adding a little bit to what you have. And they always agree. And sometimes it's just a lot easier to add. They kind of get used to paying what they've been paying forever. That when you go back, it's like they already kind of have a new budget figured out. And then usually from there, they can maybe squeeze in a little bit more. You might not write huge policies when you go back. You might write an additional 5,000, maybe an additional 10. It might only be a $20 or $30 sale, but heck, they all add up. And again, you're staying in front of the client, and that can lead to other things too. We talk about Medicare and stuff like that now. So, the more you're in front of your client, it can lead to other sales as well.
There's so many opportunities just by getting back in contact with them. I've been talking in the comment section with some of our folks that are watching and commenting, which we greatly appreciate. If you're watching us now or tomorrow or next year or 10 years from now, drop us a comment so we know that you were here. Don't be afraid to, if this doesn't work, ask them. Or dental, vision, hearing, grandkids, accident policies, cancer insurance, Medicare products. There's just so many opportunities out there when you have the confidence to just give them a call, show back up again. And like I was saying to Tori in the chat, it doesn't have to be something super formal that's on the calendar. Just give them a call, roll through the annual review right on the spot, confirm the information, tell them you just got to make sure you got everything you're supposed to have. And then as you're looking at the policy, then you can move into additional opportunities. Adam, your screen is frozen. I'm not sure if you're just flexing for the sake of social media right now, or if we're just having tech issues. I'm going to go over here and go to the next slide and see. Again, reach out if any of this inspired you, taught you something, or something that would benefit you. My contact information, chris@loyal-insurance.com. adamsinfo@adambersan.com. And remember, our appointment setting team is available to you 40 hours a week, 20 hours a week. You get what you get, 125 a week, kind of the Spirit Airlines package. If any of that catches your attention, they'll call new leads. They'll call existing clients. They'll call your grandmother. That would be weird. Don't have them call your grandmother. Anything we can do to offer you, we're here to help. And again, make sure you end this week on a positive note, a profitable note, and a productive note. Like really make that effort. Like make sure that you end this week in a way that you feel good about what you did. However you choose to end today is how you're going to feel over the course of the weekend and how you're going to feel when you start the week. So be intentional about that as well. Adam, I wasn't sure if you were just flexing for the sake of fun right there, but hopefully I covered for a few minutes while you got reset.
Yeah, I don't know. My internet just decided to take a crap or something. So it's back now. We're just about done anyways. I was just going to say, another commercial here. Check out Unity Life Group. We are expanding and building by the day. A lot of agents out there writing business, lots of different lead programs available when it comes to in-home sales, when it comes to even telesales, and just ways to kind of get people in front of people to make money, whether that's a free lead program or just ordering leads to kind of have leads readily available for people. So, check us out. Great opportunities to build a team. We're working with multiple carriers, of course, and, high level contracts available as well for those that are looking to build and grow and maybe already have an agency under them looking to build. So, check us out. UnityLifeGroup.com or AdamBersan.com. You can also check out the YouTube channel, as well as the, like Chris just said, free leads. And, I got so many local leads right now that I need help working. So if you're in my area, in the Chicagoland area, reach out to me. got so many leads, and that's a good problem to have. So if you don't have a lot of leads, get a hold of me and we can work something out. So yeah, so we kind of cut off there right about the right time anyways, Chris, because that's about all I had for today. I mean, main thing, yeah, focus on keeping up with your business. As I said at the beginning of our training this morning, writing business is just the first step. Keeping up with the business is just as important. Look at this as a business. Look at this as the fact that you want to build up your renewals. I mean, heck, like I said, renewals, that's going to help you pay for leads every week. You're going to build up those renewals. It gets to the point where, people talk about how this is a 1099 opportunity, and there's no salary. Well, the longer you do this, it starts to feel like you do have a salary coming in because you have those renewals coming in on a regular basis. So, don't just focus on writing that business and hoping that it lasts 9 months on the books. Focus on the fact that once that person's your client, you want them to be your client for life. So thanks again for coming on. I hope y'all have a great weekend, and like and share and comment. And if you have any ideas, even for future trainings, maybe there's a topic that you would like us to go over on a Friday. Feel free. We add stuff on our own different topics, but I don't want to be very repetitive either. I think it's good to kind of add new stuff as we go. So if you got any ideas, feel free to share. If you want to hop on a training, you're more than welcome. We'd be more than happy to have you on, even as a guest, if you have some of your own ideas that you'd like to share. So I don't know if you got anything you want to close with, Chris.
No, I think that's about it. We're going to record an episode for later, for the 18th, where neither of us will be here live because I'll be getting married. That's pretty cool, right? But we'll have that recorded, so you'll be able to watch us even if we won't be here in real time to share it. See you then.
Sounds good. Thanks a lot, guys and girls.